you can feel the warmth of the
Yep.
plaster coming on. So same thing, rotation pull. So this is sort of the old standard, but it's a gold standard for casting wise. There's other techniques of putting your foot in a foam box or stepping on a mat.
Okay.
But this gives a more intimate feel for, because not everyone's joint sort of moves the same way, right?
Sure.
So when you're hands-on and you know a patient and you know their history, then you really get to know how much they can handle based on control
Okay.
and how much you can push, right? So for you, your instep is naturally quite high. So if we can reduce any type of contracture that's causing the instep to be rigid, right? Because we want absorption for you. We want soft and light movements. Because for you, heel strike is very heavy.
Okay.
So what does that do is the shock radiates up to your back, right? So
Yeah.
it's, if you can muffle that within the orthotic and in your shoe, then you're not letting it radiate within the joints.
Great. Okay.
Right? So this side, the difference would be what we call sort of a little bit of more supinatus. So supinatus means there's a bit of tissue contraction that's happening on the top, so that's why it allows me to pull the foot down more.
Okay.
So that means when you're standing, this foot tends to be more of the rigid foot.
I see.
Right? So when we cast, we want to reduce that. We don't want to encourage that. So it's like a short muscle. You don't want to encourage the short muscle. You want to extend it to as long as possible.
I see. Yeah, even that I can feel all the way up into my hip.
Mm-hmm. And for you, yeah, because of the muscle atrophy, you're definitely going to have to work on a lot of extending your calf muscles, because over time they will create a sort of a shortening and a tightening of the Achilles.
Okay.
And so your heel, you're going to have to heel strike heavier too.
Okay.
Because if a string is short, you're going to have to work extra to overcome the shortness, right?
I see.
So orthotics are custom. So depending on what a patient needs, you have ranging from very rigid, controlling orthotics that are made out of, example, polypropylene or polyurethane in different thickness. So a patient, depending on their weight, they'll have to go with a thicker plastic to gain more control.
Okay.
And then the mid-range would be something that's in between, that is controlling but has also shock absorption
Yeah.
ability, and then you get to the end range of something more accommodative, something softer and lighter. So for you, because of the shock absorbing inabilities of your back, we want to lean towards more of a cushioning
Okay.
type, right?
Yeah.
So in between that, technology has come out with lots of things like ecstatic and sort of really thin plastic with the same capability to hold a larger weight but keeping the thinness down, so then you can fit into various shoes.
Okay.
And usually when you look at occupation, that's also an important thing as well to consider, because when the patient is in more of a safety shoe, standing a lot, you also have to take into consideration the terrain that they're on as well.
Okay.
And for you being in dress shoes, we also have to consider, well, they also have to fit into the shoes as well. So
Right.
balancing the function that we want to put into the orthotic as well as the usability and the patient's also their footwear style as well is important.
Okay. How long does it normally take from the casting stage to the finished orthotic?
For it to arrive to the clinic,
Yeah.
roughly about 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
And from here they'll pour something into that mold, is that?
Yeah. So usually, sort of the standard, the traditional way is, plaster is molded, or poured into the cast, and then from there that's your positive.
I see.
Right? And then from there, the shell or whatever material you decide to use gets embedded against your mold
Okay.
and vacuumed. So then it's heated, it's vacuumed, so it takes the shape.
Okay.
And then from there, the angle and the rotation of how the orthotics will be shifted will be done through padding, right? More padding here, more padding there. Plus, there's a heel stabilizer to rotate the heel how you need, right?
Okay.
So you have to post independently heel and the front of the foot.
Okay.
Because your motion also is allowed in the middle. But for you, because you're pretty rigid, how the heel is, the rest follows it,
I see.
right?
Okay.
But for some, the heel is moving one direction while the middle of the foot moving in the rest.
Oh,
in the opposite
okay.
direction, yeah. Okay, so based on sort of your cast, you can see left and right, but look at the obvious, if you look at a cast, look at how you can see right through the arch, right? So that is a profile of someone who has a more cavoid foot or high instep, where the pressure point is very obvious with the heels and along the ball joint, usually first and fifth. So that generally, if you look at both, very obvious, they're both very hollow in the center, so if you were to come out of the shower, you can obviously see that there's empty space where the arch is, right? So when you compare the two, usually you have to break it down into the heel and also the midfoot. So looking at just your foot as well, I mentioned that from the midfoot there's rotation, so that it's hard to see with an untrained eye, but you can see this has more rotation curling inwards.
Okay.
Right, so what we'll have to do is we'll have to also post the front of the foot and rotate it outwards as well.
Okay.